Hello, my name is Inbal Segev. I'm a cellist and I'm going to be the soloist with the Nashville Symphony this coming 2 weeks from now.
My name is Jayna Powell, and on behalf of the Music City Review, I am so honored to be talking with you today. Thank you so much for being here. All of us here in Nashville are just so excited that you're coming. I'm a cellist. I have many friends who are cellists, and I remember some chatter in my friend group when we were looking through the Nashville Symphony concert calendar and being like, "Oh, we have to go." I really admire your work, and I'm gonna be at the concert. I'm so excited to be there. So
Thank you.
we are
Super.
so excited to have you. Have you been to Nashville before? Is this going to be your first time?
It's my first time.
First time.
And it's a happy occasion because my daughter is a voice major next year and she's applying to Vanderbilt. So
Oh, very
we're
cool.
actually combining the two trips.
Oh, that's so exciting. Work, school, music, studying. Oh, I love it. That is so exciting. Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that just for the audience who's watching. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your upcoming concert schedule and where all you're going to be, if it's a tour or just sort of one-off concerts and whatever is ready. But this one is
Yeah.
a combination. So how's it looking?
Yeah, I'm playing in Chicago just a week before for a gala for the Grand Parks, where I'm going to be artist in residence this summer.
Oh,
And then we're taking this concerto and playing it in Las Vegas with Leonard Slatkin as well.
that is so exciting. Yeah, so is that are those the only few concerts you're doing with this concerto or will there be more after?
I'm thinking kind of recalling there is one more later, but I can't remember. Oh yeah, I'm playing it at Grand Parks.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so in Chicago this summer.
That's so exciting. This is the Adamo concerto last year, right? That you'll
Yes.
be playing. Have you performed it a lot or is this starting to be sort of a new favorite?
This is starting to be a new favorite. I've heard it, but I've never performed it, so I'm really excited to get it to bring it to the audiences in Nashville.
Oh, that is so exciting. Yay. It's going to be the best time. I'm very excited for this concert. I'm glad you are as well. And have you talked to the composer about it? Have you been able to work with him directly?
So I met him, and we discussed it a little bit, and I think I might reach out to him soon to play it for him. But yeah, I have a recording of it, and so I know he wrote everything quite clearly. So
Hmm. Yeah,
it's
that's
uh,
great. I looked into the story behind the piece a little bit in preparation for today, and I just think it's fascinating, and the references to Vivaldi I think are fascinating. I feel as though Four Seasons is a piece that's referenced a lot, and it's just kind of iconic. But I love adaptations that use it, so that's really exciting. What is something that you really want the audience in Nashville to take away from your performance this month? Is there a big picture idea that you would really love to instill?
I hope they can be transported. The subject matter is a bit political. It's about global warming, and whatever your stance is on that, I think that the music speaks for itself. First of all, I think the idea is beautiful, of taking that Four Seasons and changing it like that, and he changed it a lot. You can hear snippets of the Four Seasons in there, but the piece is definitely its own. It's not an adaptation by any means. Um, I hope that people can see the narrative, enjoy the music for what it is, even if they don't understand, they can't follow the narrative, because hopefully the music stands by itself without the story.
Hmm.
And I think it does. It has, as I said, his orchestration is really first class. Um, yeah, and I'm excited to work with Leonard Slatkin, whom I know for many years. So it's the first time we're going to collaborate.
That's so
He heard
exciting.
me play the Anna Clyne actually in St. Louis. So super excited to work with him finally.
That is so exciting. I'm glad you're excited. We're all excited. Um, um, I wanted to ask you about particularly a lot of your work is with living composers or with more modern composers, and just in terms of playing music by historic composers versus living composers, do you feel that there is a significant difference in how you present music like that to an audience? Either if the composer is more modern in this time or if it's like a historic favorite, does that um, does that have a different sort of emotional presence from you as the performer?
It's a great question. I think that we have, when we play something like Dvorak, there's tradition, there's sort of baggage, and we have to be also careful not to follow it too closely, the tradition, but be respectful to things that have over the years kind of happened for a reason. So I think one of the things I love about new music is that I create my own path with a piece, and it's definitely challenging, but it also liberating because I don't have that tradition, so I can get to make it my own more.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That makes sense. And do you think that in sort of your experience playing historic works and works by newer composers, do you think that the response from the audience and whatever ensemble you're playing with is vastly different? Either like how they respond to it in real time or how they connect to it emotionally? How do you think that's
I
different?
think that, yeah, when I play things that are very well known, it's easier for the audience in general to connect because they have heard the piece and there's a lot of recordings. But I think that with certain pieces like the Adamo or like the Anna Clyne that I commission and I play a lot, as it grabs the audience and they're surprised. So an audience might come to the concert hall being a little apprehensive and like, oh, it's new music. Certainly, it can be hard to chew sometimes, but this piece is approachable. It's beautiful. He creates colors with the orchestra that I've never heard before, really. He uses, without using winds, he's using harp, strings, let's see what else. Yeah, percussion. Um, and it's just, it's very transparent and it's sort of like surrealistic. Yeah.
Hmm. That's exciting. I'm so excited to hear it. I don't think I've heard it before actually, so I'm looking forward to it. I was thinking today about um, how you have worked with modern composers and how you are also a modern composer, and your experience with playing works by other people, playing works of your own, and sort of running the gamut, I guess, of lots of different possibilities there. So, in terms of your own compositions, do you would you say that you've sort of always had an interest in composing, and it's just been in more recent years that you have been able to produce compositions, or has it all been a newer experience?
It's a newer experience. Since the pandemic, I've really didn't compose much before. Once I did cadenza or the Arthur Sullivan cello concerto,
Mm.
but I didn't really feel that I had it in me. And then in the pandemic, I commissioned a lot of new pieces, and then it became sort of like I was like, why can't I do this? It became more approachable. The more you know composers and you work with them, you see that this process is not so much, in the sky. It can be done. And I certainly know the instrument as well as any composer. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know I have. I'm in school still, and I have several friends who are studying composition and have interest in that. It's not something that I have yet felt like I have any real proclivity towards. I have also tried to write cadenzas, and mine have not turned out great.
Oh, that's great. Well, I always thought the composer sits at the desk and the inspiration hits, but it's really very similar to us practicing. in the room. It's you chipping at that old block for hours on end and making it better. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to ask what sort of advice or mentorship you would give to anyone listening who is maybe an instrumentalist or otherwise a musician that wants to start composing but doesn't really know where to start. Where that's maybe too loaded of a question, but where do you start for something like that?
I started with pencil and paper, but then I learned Sibelius. I think today just learning to work with a DAW, also a lot like Logic Pro for me, really opens a lot of possibilities and connects you to the current kind of trends. I mean, it is classical music, but still, I think that we have so much new techniques to use today that, and I'm excited for that. Combination, the symbiosis of the old and the new has always been really interesting to me. I don't know that there is one way to start composing, and I got a teacher, and we would go back and forth. I'm like, how do you find your style? He's like, it's a lifelong process. How do you start a piece? Oh, it's also very individual. Some people start with a melody, some people start with harmony, some people start with texture. Some people start in the middle, some people start in the end. So I think it's in a way liberating, because when I studied cello, and you too probably, there is sort of a way, there is a system, and we all go, whether it's Suzuki or whether you have your teacher from a young age and you do the scales and you build up your technique. And I think certainly you need to learn the basics in composition too, but then once you have that, it's more individual, I think, which I like.
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, playing cello, playing a string instrument, I know most of your compositions have been string centric. Would you say that's true?
Yes.
Has it been difficult to branch out from that and try to figure out, I would imagine, figuring out how to make it make sense to compose for other instruments, but also maybe to channel emotionally what you're trying to convey? Would you say that's been more difficult not for strings?
Yes, it's more challenging, but I think it's also really exciting, because the cello, I always felt that as much as I love the cello, just having cello is a little limiting. So I always loved the orchestra, and when I started composing for orchestra, I'm taking an orchestration course now. It's like it opened a whole new world for me. It's so exciting. So I love learning about what you can do with different instruments.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is so exciting. In terms of that's, I mean, sort of the technical, like pencil and paper, composing in a DAW, learning about orchestration, all those sorts of things, the nuts and bolts. I love hearing about the background for that for you, but I guess I'm wondering more in sort of a creative space kind of a sense. What I'm most curious about is how you feel about the difference between practicing others' music and practicing your own music, and what kind of sort of creative and emotional space is necessary for that, as well as like, I'm not a composer, but I can imagine that if I had to balance my energy between my own music and music by other people, that would be very difficult. So can you talk a little bit about that balance in your life and how you manage that?
I actually really enjoy not practicing my own pieces. I'd love to hear it from the outside.
Hmm.
Of course, the reality is that I'm going to be, the best advocate for my own music, as probably any beginning composer is. But I really like not to have to practice and just to compose at the piano or at the computer. And then later, of course, I can imagine what can work on the cello and what not. But practicing my own pieces can be a little it's challenging, because it's like hearing your own recordings. It's hard because you have to come to terms with, I thought it's going to sound better in real life.
Yes.
So it's more fun to write for other instruments, to be honest with you, at this point. But of course, my piece that has been performed most is my cello quartet, and that's just because I'm a cellist and I play in festivals, and so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. how you feel about your music. Is there a difference for you between where you sort of pull from creatively when you're performing or composing? Like, do you feel that there's a different side of you that expresses performing than a side of you that expresses composing, or does it just sort of all come from the same artistic place?
I think it does come from a similar artistic place. When I play a cadenza that was written by somebody else, for example, you want to, as you know, we want to pretend we're composing it on the spot, not that somebody else composed it. You want to have that improvisatory feel. So in a way, it's very familiar. It's not that different to write your own works. That said, of course, when it's not just a cadenza, it has to have the structure, and that's definitely more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I think that uh, yeah, when I practice my own pieces, it's always with the ear to, okay, what can I change to make it better? When I practice somebody else's music, the notes are there, so you're not going to change, but you can try and get into the mind of the composer and see what they wanted.
Right. Yeah, I like what you said earlier about sort of a piece having baggage, so to speak, or an existing work. I was at a festival this summer and someone was playing Dvorak, and I remember the teacher saying something like, "Well, of course, everyone plays Dvorak how Rostropovich played Dvorak," and us all being like, "Yeah, like instantly we could envision that sound. It's so steeped in our tradition." But then finding new traditions, I think, is so exciting. And I mean, the Anna Clyne piece is classic. I think it's something that all of us who admire your work also really admire. Um,
Thank
what
you.
is what are some things that you have learned in studying working with Anna Clyne, and what's it like working with her?
She's very sweet, and she trusted me to, give my suggestions, my 5 cents, for making some small changes to the piece by adding ornamentation or octaves or runs, which made it more virtuosic and more a little bit more less, just kind of filling in a little bit some of the cello colors. I mean, the piece is incredible, but sometimes the cello part, it needed that extra something. So I'm very happy she was generous and she took my ideas. So a few spots I wrote. um, Other than that, we recorded it in London and she was there for the recording, um, and we went back and forth a few times about balancing the recordings, but I think she wrote it very, very well. She herself is an amateur cellist, and there was not much there that didn't work. You know what I mean? We did fix some balancing issues between the premiere at Cabrillo and then the recording. Every hall seemed to have a little different,
Right.
obviously acoustic. So we had to change the winds. We went back and forth, or she went back and forth between, say, piano and mezzo forte for certain sections.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And in terms of like continuing to have a working relationship with her, is she someone who is sort of in a composer mentorship kind of role in your life? Like, do you continue to show compositions to her, and is that working relationship still active?
Well, I did show her one piece, one of the first pieces I wrote. I did show her, and she gave really excellent advice. And then she's busy, so I'm actually I have Timo Andres, who wrote me a concerto, is helping me, is being my mentor right now, and he's phenomenal. So I'm very lucky that I have help from such caliber
Mm,
people. Let's see, yeah, but a lot of it is just doing things on your own. I mean, I think that at this point in my life, it's weird because I played my whole life, but I'm just starting my way as a composer. So a lot to learn, but also some things I don't want to learn and I have strong opinions about.
mm. Okay, interesting. I have a couple more questions for you, just more like sort of fun questions, less of a deep conversation, so to speak. Um, First one, this is just a silly one. Do you have a favorite concert hall or a space to perform in that stands out in your mind as like, oh, I wish I could perform there every day?
Whew. Um, yes, well, I recently played at Zenkel and it was just gorgeous. So it's Carnegie Hall, the medium-sized hall. I usually, I mean, certainly there's something to be said for playing in a big hall. And I just last weekend I played for 3,500 seat hall. It wasn't full, but it's a huge, huge hall. It was substantial. There was a lot of people there, even though it wasn't completely full. Um, but I do prefer, I think, the more intimate halls because I feel like you can connect really with the audience in a different way. So, yeah. Um, Dallas Symphony has a fantastic hall. That's not a small hall, but it feels, warm and enveloping in a way that I really liked, enjoyed.
That's beautiful. I
Yeah.
think all of us in Nashville are very proud of our symphony hall. I don't, have you seen
Right.
like pictures or anything about the inside of it? No idea.
No, I should Google that.
If you'd like, if you have a moment, but it's beautiful. I have been studying here for a few years, and I go to the symphony whenever I can. It's just such a beautiful acoustic space and visually. So I hope you enjoy it. Um, what about let's see, a concert memory to you that stands out, a favorite memory, or maybe something that was funny, something from a previous tour, a fun story to share?
Uh, well, let's see. I'm sure there are fun stories, but I'm trying to think. Well, this past weekend I was in San Francisco, and in the middle of the night at 2:30 a.m. there was a fire alarm, and we all went down in our pajamas. So it was
No.
hilarious to see everybody in the hotel in their PJs.
Oh no.
I was very happy I brought my good ones.
That's
Um,
adorable. That's
uh,
hilarious.
Part of the things.
Mhm.
Sometimes people would be like, "Oh yeah, the other day I flew first class," which usually I don't because I don't feel like it's necessary to be honest. But I did fly first class, and the cello was next to me,
Mhm.
and people came. So I was sitting, and somebody came over, and he's like, "First class for the cello? Who are you?" And I was like, embarrassment of riches for a second. I was like, "Oh." Usually it's like first class, but it was a nice moment to feel like, okay, I've arrived.
That's awesome. I've heard a story. I don't know if this is true. It was just something online, but I've heard a story about a cellist traveling and there was a random upgrade for the airline and the cello got upgraded to first class without him. Have you heard that one?
I get those notices, and I always say I prefer not to because I don't want to fly alone without my cello. I want to keep an eye on it. So that's funny though.
I don't want the cello to get upgraded without you.
I'll
That's
take those
hilarious.
warm nuts.
So funny. Um, Now I love the Bach suites, as I'm sure we all do. I have not played all of them yet. I will one day. So I'm wondering, do you at this time have a favorite Bach suite that you think is the most fun to play?
Okay, so my favorite is number five, but it certainly is not the most fun to play
Hmm.
because it's just so hard. And with
Exhausting.
this cordatura, and I don't know if you play it, but you have to stretch your hand.
Hmm.
So that is definitely the prelude is so beautiful.
Hmm.
Um, I think the third is very effective because it's in C major. Usually, it's very easy in a way. The first is just so famous that it's hard to make it fresh, to be honest. I mean, it's possible, but it's the third is just virtuosic, and it sits that the key is so great for the cello. And I like the third.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I also love the fifth. It is not easy with the Scotitura. Do you think it's too, I would like just study that prelude and it's so exhausting. I love it, but it's so exhausting. Do you
Exactly.
think which one do you think is more taxing, the prelude to the fifth or the prelude to the fourth?
The fifth. The fourth, I just learned it earlier, and it just sits there. I know it's you need to be warmed up because it's a lot of stretching,
Right.
but I still think it's easier because of this cordatura. It's easier the fourth. Yeah,
Yeah, it's true. Very true.
yeah.
just touched on. Tips for traveling with your cello, or I guess, I mean, all of us that have had to travel with a cello just hate doing it. It's a necessary evil, but have you figured out anything that makes that sort of nightmare process a little easier?
I usually fly United. I think they get it. They don't make me stand at the counter forever. If you call your cello, when you book the ticket, call it BCCG, because some airlines like to call it extra ticket. So it's always, you have to know. Actually, I have a travel agent now after years of suffering. Like she knows which airline requires what, so that works. Yeah, I have a whole thing that I travel. I use like a shirt for sleeping for the next day. I would use it for the gym. So I try to kind of cut down on that weight as much as I can. But yeah, so I have travel sizes and I think I have it down to a science, the situation. I always try to kind of go light. I try to not check luggage if I can. So I have a carry-on because they don't lose it this way and it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but United is very good for cello, I find.
I also prefer to fly United when I can. That's, yeah, I agree. Um, Traveling light, I'm sure, is great. Do you find that's difficult with concert wear ever? I don't know if you prefer to perform in dresses or suits or whatever, but I feel like that always takes up the most space for me when I'm traveling.
Yes, for sure. I have this poofy dress. It's that I probably will bring to Nashville. And I just got it. A designer took it and sprayed it with paint. It's so really cool. It's like a work of art. So, and I think it's the right dress for this piece because our environment is dirty. So this dress doesn't look dirty, but it has a lot of colors. It's a very busy. So anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I wrinkle free definitely. I don't like steaming, so my gowns do not require steaming.
Good.
Yeah.
Very, very efficient.
Yes.
You have enough work to do on the stage. You don't need to do work in the hotel room.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. Well, I think that's about all the time that we have, but thank you so much for your time today, and it's just been an honor to talk to you and get to know about your music. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience in Nashville ahead of the trip?
I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody there, and thank you so much for this interview.